The Bernina 880 Decorative Stitch Effects with Susan Fears.
Hi everyone, welcome to our Decorative Stitch Effects with the 880. There are loads of wonderful things that are built into this machine, and we're going to talk mostly about decorative stitches and some of the things that you can do with them. So this is your decorative stitch menu options. I've expanded the window so that you can see all of the different folders. Some successful tips when you are sewing 9mm stitches. One of the key things is selecting the right foot. Foot number 20C comes with the machine, and it has a carved out area in the foot so that the stitches, as you are stitching them, can pass easily under the foot. Sometimes your 9mm stitches, whether they are open stitches or satiny stitches, are going to need extra stabilizer. So select a stabilizer that works best. Most of the time I use a lightweight tearaway, but sometimes it will require 2 layers so that my fabric doesn't buckle up but stays flat and my stitches are always beautiful. You may decide that foot number 39C, which is an optional foot, and also a very good decorative stitch foot. It has that same tunnel underneath the foot as foot number 20C, but you have the advantage of being able to see through the foot because it is clear. Then, along with your decorative stitch folders, you will see that some of your stitch folders have a little compass mark on them. Those are folders of stitches that go sideways. So they're sideways motion stitches. Those stitches tend to be a little bit larger, and those stitches need to be stitched with your sideways motion foot 40C, also included with the 880. When you bring up a stitch that is from one of these menus, you'll notice that it is larger than the foot, but you'll see a starting point and an ending point. You'll also see that the machine recommends foot number 40C. You may also need stabilizer here, just as you do with other stitches. Your goal is to keep the presser foot straight or parallel to a line that you might have drawn, and let the feed dogs move the fabric sideways to draw the stitch. As I was just mentioning, there is a start and an ending point to your large sideways motion stitches, so that gives you an idea of the relationship of the stitch to the foot. Now, another decorative effect that you can work with is to take a 9mm stitch and add an effect to it, and one of the new effects is called distortion. And it allows you to select stitches and then distort them, and I'll show you the process, so that you are creating a different or wavy baseline. It's a very beautiful and fun decorative technique. The menus that we have worked a lot with this for this technique is the satin stitch compact decorative stitches. And the ones we like the most are the ones that are the most satiny. So things like 401 and 405 and 406, 414, 415, 416 is nice. But any of those 410 and 408, those probably aren't going to give you a really cool looking effect. But feel free to try any and all of the stitches. You just play a little. So we're selecting our stitch, and then we're going to select the information icon and select distortion, which will bring up 2 icons that will show you that you need to turn the knobs to distort the stitch. To do this, you'll turn the stitch width knob, or the uppermost knob, and as you turn the stitch to the left, it's going to sew to the left. As you turn the stitch to the right, it's going to start arcing to the right. Once you begin the distortion technique, you are in a sideways motion stitching phase, and you'll notice that the presser foot selection recommends foot number 40C. This is never a dual feed technique, so you would never have a dual feed foot on for this. You will always only ever want to do this with 40C because it does become a sideways motion technique. And these are the great techniques that you can try. These were some of the stitches that make up this little sampler. I tried out stitch number 711, which is the star, one of my all-time favorite stitches. It's not a satiny stitch, but it works just fine for this technique. So this is where I think playing a little bit does have its advantages. So that is a little bit about distortion. It is tons of fun, and if you are coming from the Bernina 830, you might would have heard of this feature called as Balance Bonus. It did not have a separate icon, but we incorporated this into an umbrella called Balance Bonus. So if you're familiar with that technique, distortion is the same thing. So let's talk a little bit about other decorative effects you can do. Of course, you can select any stitch at any time and stitch one right after the other over and over and over. But maybe you'd like to put things together as a combination. So the plus symbol that you see is the Combi Mode icon. And when you select the plus symbol, what you end up with is an action bar. And that action bar is where all the stitches that you start to touch or select begin to appear, and then you're able to make changes to those based on what types of things you select from your information screen. So let's take a look at some of those techniques. So this is my Bernina simulator, and if I open my Combi Mode, here is my action bar. You can still select from any of your decorative stitch folders that you like, and remember, you can see a few or you can see many, and your stitches will appear in this bar or the action bar. So I'm going to start creating a little stitch. I'm going to start putting in stitch number 607. I happen to know I'm going to go out and find my favorite stitch, 711, so you can use the 0 to 9 feature to start adding in stitches. You can continue adding in stitches if you know which ones those are. And then maybe I'm going to add 711 again. To close your 0 to 9, you just touch 0 to 9. Maybe you want to try a stitch to see if it would look good in this or not, so you start adding a stitch. And if you decide you don't like it, to get rid of it, you just touch the stitch and drag it off to the side. That is called deleting by swiping, and it's a very quick way to get rid of something you didn't mean to put there. So one of the things I'm looking at on this screen is the orientation of the two little circly things. So I'm going to select the information menu, and I can select a stitch just by tapping on it in the action bar, and this tells me I'm working on stitch number 607. I can use any of these effects that are highlighted. So if I wanted to throw it away, I could. If I wanted to put a pattern elongation onto it, I could. If I want to mirror image it, you can do that. And this is a great way to mirror image something, or perhaps maybe you really want to mirror image this one. So you can apply any of these that are available to you to the combination. And then when you are finished in the combination, you can always just touch the X. Sometimes your combination will have more things involved in it than what you were thinking. So a good way to look at that is to touch the modify icon. And this gives me an idea of what it would look like if it was stitched out one right after another. It's a preview. And what I notice is I have some space in between one of the asterisks, but not really the other. So if I want to change that, I want to add a little space in between around this asterisk. When you see this icon that has the triangle with the little hash mark, this means you are not at pattern begin, and if you wanted to be at pattern begin, say for the sake of sewing this, you would want to select that, and you see the blue one is the highlighted one. It is what is the selected stitch. But the area that I want to add some things to is here. So this little dotted line indicates where a stitch would be added. I can use the arrows to scroll up, and the stitches that would be added into here, or into my combination, would be added in front of the cursor. So the stitch that I want to add is a little straight stitch. And you have, of course, stitch number 1, but you also have stitch number 32. And stitch number 32 is a great stitch to add because it is just a single straight stitch. And I'm going to add another one of those after this last one, which again would be in front of the cursor. So now if I go to modify and I take a look at my design, I see that I have better spacing. So don't forget about using a simple little straight stitch to give yourself some space in between some of your combinations that you might be working with. So this is a combination that's being created working with some of the decorative stitches. When you're ready to close out and modify, you just tap modify. And then you're now ready to stitch this. If you want to save it, you would save this by going to your personal program, and then you would be selecting the folder with the arrow going into the folder, and then you would touch the highlighted box, and then that is now saved away. To bring something out of the combination, let's say that you've just turned the machine on for the very first time of the day, and this is what you're looking at, and you're ready to get back to work with your stitch combinations. You would want to open the combination first. This would probably not be there. So how would you get rid of this? If I go into the eye and I want to delete the whole thing at one time, then if I use the selection icon and select everything and touch the trash can, it asks me, are you sure? Yes, and now everything is deleted at one time. If you have a combination with 2 or 3 things, hitting the trash can, 2 or 3 times isn't huge, but let's say you have lots of names in there, because you can also work with combinations with lettering. Then deleting everything with a one-click delete does save you a lot of time, and it is a lot faster. So back to how do I get something out of combination? So I have my combination open, I select my personal program, and I'm going to be bringing up an entire combination, which is signified by the folder with many little squares or stitches. And here I find the one that we just created, or maybe one of my previous ones. And here is my stitch combination, and I would be ready to stitch this out. Now there's a couple of other things that you can also do with working with combinations. And again, let's delete this. So I'm going to select everything and delete and check. You may want to add in stitches that may not necessarily have the same baseline. So the stitches that I was thinking about adding are stitches number 674, which is a fun little circly design, and I'm going to add stitch number 972, which is, oops, sorry about that, I guess I will be going to the menu to look for that, because obviously I don't have the right number. I am looking for the little scissors, 947. So now I have a little scissor, or maybe I don't want the scissor, maybe I like the little spool and thread better. If I take a look at this, what I see is that my stitch is on a center, the needle starts in the center, ends in the center, and then it's going to have to make a jump to start on the scissor. And if I look at the preview window, I see it's really not very connected. So if I want these to connect, then I need to work with them a little bit differently. One of the things that I might want to do is decide, oh, maybe I don't want both of these, so I'm going to get rid of the scissor, and now I just have the little spool and the thread. I go back into Modify, and you're able to do something called drag and drop. So by touching with your stylus or your fingertip, the stitch, you can make them connect up. So I've taken the second design that's going to start in at the bottom or of the stitch instead of the middle, and I've just connected those up. And now when I look at this in my preview window, I see that they're going to stitch fluidly, and there will be no breaks or no miscellaneous jump stitches. So this is the combination, or this is the stitch that I like. Because it's going to also have to travel to make this stitch, you'll notice in your combination you have some move motion directional places. And you also may notice that the recommended foot is now foot 40C, because now this is a sideways motion technique. What is really ultimately cool about this is that the machine interpreted what you drew, and it determined what it needed to do to sew what you drew on the screen. So you don't have to figure out what any of those angles are yourself. The machine figures that out all for you. And it's a fantastic way to work, and it's a real time saver, and will also give you very beautiful results. Now, I've been working with stitches that were 9mm stitches. You also can work with the sideways motion stitches in combination. So you can put a lot of stitches into the combination so that you can work with them. Now, let's say that you would, what else can you do with this? First of all, let's close out of this, and I'm going to save this off. So personal program, arrow into the folder, press and select to save, and it's been saved. If you did not want to stitch this out manually, you could then go to embroidery, look in your My Designs folder, and voila, there is your stitch. So you could change your hoop size, and you could create an endless embroidery with this, with or without the reference marks. And you could stitch this out. Using duplicate would then allow you to continue working with the design to create a whole new background or a whole new set of decorative features. So you can sew them out, but you can also embroider them out. So this are some of the wonderful things that you can do with the decorative stitch options that you have on the 880. And I hope that you will give a lot of them a try, because it is really a lot of fun to work with the decorative stitches. And you'll see how great of a design partner your Bernina 880 is, because you can just select stitches, combine them up, see what you like. The stitch preview screens give you so much information now. A lot of times you can see what you like without even going to fabric. So have fun with that, and see you on another Bernina 880 tutorial.